that. Looks like my whole system just crashed. Hopefully everything's back up and working. If not, let me know. I think we were in the middle of the importing some. I think we were in the middle of importing some assets, so I'm going to go ahead and get back into that. Under packages, my assets, and we're going to go ahead and type in what that lets us. There we go. Type in polygon, and then let's see. I think we finished doing the kids. I think was the last one we had done. Down here, and now just plugging away. I don't think we'll need knights. I don't think we'll need this meadow forest. Military though, we'll definitely need that one. I'm kind of using the military pack as the start of this apocalyptic story. Basically, the war hits off in the Middle East and then eventually finds its way back home to the United States. That's where things start getting really bad, and the father and son have to retreat into the bunker. Now, I haven't really decided. To mention anything about the mother. I've gotten a few questions on that. I guess for now, I'm just sticking with father and son. But maybe at some point we might just think of something. This one's almost done. This one's actually a really cool pack too. Kind of has all the Middle Eastern warfare, kind of very much like the war in Iraq or war in Afghanistan. It's got a pretty good military, settings and concepts, and there's oil rigs and a lot of weapons we could use. There's a lot of cool stuff. It's another video I recommend watching if you can on the Cinti asset store. I think for now though I'll avoid watching that. I don't want to bore you guys too much with videos from the Cinti asset store, but they're pretty cool. I'm definitely a fan if you couldn't tell. And I'm just pulling up the kind of the design document, aka the website, if you guys haven't gone there. It's the Icebreaker Games / Stream Machine. You can find that by just looking up some commands for the chat. I think I want to say the command is just website if you want to take a look. But if we look through some of these levels, I have the desert concept, I have the apocalyptic one, we got ancient Rome. Looks like we're getting close. I'm not sure if we'll need this particle effect, but this is a really good one to have anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and install it. This is what takes care of your bullets, your explosions, your fires, so we're definitely going to want a lot of that stuff. I'm a huge fan of particles as well. Particles are one thing that's really cool in Unity, and I've always loved messing around with them. We could probably install this prototype because we're creating a prototype, and so sometimes you can use some of their icons, or actually I'm going to avoid it for now, but maybe at some point we might install it, because there's even like sticky notes, where you can kind of say, hey, this is where I want to insert this or insert that. A lot of times I will just track that stuff externally, not inside of Unity. And I like to use things like Trello is a good example. You go to icebreaker.com. It's kind of like these card-based tracking system of all the things that are either working, not working, need fixed, or ideas, whatnot, and you can share that with other people in your team. I am doing this samurai. This was one of our levels. I thought it'd be really cool to walk among the samurai and kind of learn kind of honor or something inside that level. I thought it would be pretty cool. I am worried that the kids pack that I mentioned earlier might not have like kind of a samurai or cool looking kid version. We'll see though at that point. Some of these levels might have to be adjusted, but I have so many Senti packs that we should be able to find a replacement if we need to. Some of these sci-fi stuff I'm going to avoid because I think that would take place in the future past the apocalypse, but they are pretty cool ones as well. Let's see, there's a starter pack. This is another concept very similar to the prototype one. I'm going to install this street racer. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to go with this level. I did think it would be pretty cool to have kind of the 21st century level where we could walk around a city and see how things are basically today, and maybe even get into a car and drive around. I've always liked games like some of the older Final Fantasies where you're just playing a normal, top-down RPG, and then next thing you know, you get to do something cool, something different in a level, like driving something around. So let's see, I think we're getting close to having the majority of the assets. I think we have 2, 3 more, maybe? Yeah, I think maybe 3. And then we can get into creating. Start playing around with some of these assets. I probably will, at least in the beginning, just use some of their pre-defined, pre-created scenes, just to kind of use as an example as we progress, and then I'll fine-tune them eventually, way down the road. We have plenty of time, and this is a stream that I'll be doing every day during this development process. So, if you do miss a day and you come back the next day, you'll probably see all the progress we made, and hopefully we'll be plugging along. I'm not entirely sure how long this project will take. This is a pretty big project. I think it could take anywhere from weeks to months, depending on how much or how in depth we want to go with this. Obviously the more in depth we go, the better. We don't necessarily need to go really in depth with a project like this, a prototype like this, especially if you're just looking for publishers and you're just gonna sell it off. But the more that we can show off to a publisher, the more that we can show off to users, to players, I think the better. So I don't want to rush it. I don't want to put an end date on this project. I'd like to kind of see where we're at, just keep plugging away. I tend to work on these projects usually about 8 hours to 10 hours a day. So I'd like to spend a majority of that streaming, because I really want you guys to see every little painful step in this process, but just to show that it's easy, that you guys can do this, anybody can do this. So the street racer's done. We might need that town pack just to kind of go into that 21st century concept, but I'm going to hold off on that for now until we really define that level. Let's see, war. This war pack is definitely one of the ones I wanted. On the website, I did kind of title of this particular level that war never changes. I'm not sure if you guys know where that's from. It's one of my favorite quotes, because I'm a huge Fallout fan, and that's where the quote comes from. Obviously, we wouldn't call that level war never changes. I would call it something else, but But just for now, this is going to be our, World War II pack or level. We may even, storm the beaches of Normandy or something. There's a lot of stuff in this particular Cincy pack. Gives us a lot of flexibility. We could do some really cool sniping mission or something like that. In this whole project, I definitely prefer the top-down, third-person view. Maybe not completely top-down, but I like viewing my character. So as you have a different character in each level, or different outfits, or use different weapons, different vehicles, I really enjoy seeing those changes. So like first-person games, I love first-person games, especially your Call of Duties, whatnot. But I really enjoy more of the third person, more of the like Assassin's Creeds. I think they're pretty sick. I do have this extra map. I'm going to go ahead and download this and install this one as well. It just gives us a little bit more flexibility with this war scene. So we might use kind of a combination of both. But you can see that the first parts of creating a game, it's just kind of plugging away. I recommend day zero is what I call it. Day zero is just putting together all of your design documents, which I usually just use like PowerPoint. People have asked me is there a specific way that you need to create your design documents? And I don't think there really is. I think you can do it however you want. I like Google Docs because once you get into having a team, you want to be able to share those documents. You want everybody to have access to it. You want everybody to be able to make notes and edits. So a lot of times that's what I'll do. But if it's just a solo project and you're not adding anybody in, PowerPoint is just fine. And I recommend putting in a lot of text stuff, writing down your ideas, throwing in some concept art, and anything that helps kind of convey your idea. Because at some point, especially if you're going down the publisher route, you're going to have to create a pitch deck. And that pitch deck is going to come from your design documents. But just do it whatever looks good, whatever you want to do. Once again, there's really no right or wrong answer here. Whatever's the most convenient. For those who don't use Unity very often, you'll see that since I've now imported so many Cincy assets, you'll see some of these get replaced by other packages here, or don't need to be replaced at all because you already have this in the project. So I just ignore most of that stuff. And I think this is actually the last one that we need, at least for now. We can always come back and add more later if we decide, hey, oh man, we need this, we need that. This is going to be, once this is done, this is now, okay, this is done. This is now when I come back into GitHub. And you can see we got 52,000 changed files. So this is kind of going to be our base. We haven't really started doing any work. We just imported all the tools and assets we needed. So, I think I originally was going to just say initial push. You could add descriptions, like I said, but I usually don't. And all assets is may not be accurate because, like I said, we may need more later. And I might go ahead and commit that to main. Drag that out of the way. That's probably going to take a little while, just because we have, 52,000 files. But hopefully we don't get any errors. And that'll be, like I said, the base structure for creating this project. If we ever make a mistake and we want to go all the way back to the beginning, hopefully that never happens. But if we have to, we have it. And that's what version control truly is for. is just being able to go back to all these different specific points. Let's see. What else can we? I'm just looking at the Dream Machine website again here. I'll take a look at that real fast. When we create our level, we're going to be using some of these images as references, and that's always good to do. I recommend that as much as possible. Anytime that you can have a reference image, I mean, you're just going to make a better product. And that goes from anything from creating forests to creating towns to creating, a bunker, whatever you want. Use the reference images as much as possible. So you can see this one here, this was created by Midjourney. Now, the AI did a fairly good job, and this is two different bunker concepts. So you have the concept on the left and the concept on the right. This isn't supposed to be one massive bunker, but we could do that. But it kind of gives you the ideas of, okay, I want boxes. I want it to be dark. I want it to look like a bunker. I want it to be kind of sad, kind of dreary, kind of boring for a child to have to live down here all day, every day. Never essentially seeing the sunlight. And this was all just created, by Midjourney. And what I do a lot of times is I create these support files. And so this is the Dream Machine support file. So for right now, we only have the concept art in here. And then this was the original game design document that I was telling you guys about. And I just used PowerPoint. And so it kind of lays out, the whole entire thing, very similar to the website. But this is all you really need on day 0. So you start doing this on day 0, and then today would be day 1. And day 1 is just getting everything situated, getting everything into your project, getting everything ready to go. So, we don't really need this sample scene, but I'm going to do some organization real quick. This is just stuff that I do all the time with most of my projects. I create just a asset store folder here, and I start throwing in a lot of these polygon assets into there. Or most of them. Kind of cleans up your view here, and for those of you who don't use Unity very often, this is just a really nice file structure, very similar to your computer. I can literally create new folders from here. I can literally go into the actual folder itself existing on my desktop. I can show you guys that here in a second when it's done moving. It's a pretty nice system. It works pretty well. But let's say, for example, I go into this folder. I could say show and explore, and it's going to just populate where that exists on my computer. So it's pretty cool. So we're going to finish moving all this over. This is usually something that on YouTube, we would speed through, so you guys can just skip through all the boring stuff. But on a live stream, it's a little bit harder to do that. You can select multiple ones at a time as well. Just takes a little bit longer to move some of them. Feel free to post any questions you have in the chat, any issues, any complaints, Hey, if you're just bored, it's fine. Go ahead and post something. Now, you can see in our scenes here. Actually, before we get into that, there's one thing that I forgot to mention. So when we go into these asset store folders here, I told you earlier we're using what's called URP, aka Universal Rendering Pipeline. URP, for those of you guys who don't know, it's a kind of the graphics settings that you're going to apply to this project. And Universal isn't necessarily dumbed down graphics, but it's not super high either. It's exactly what the name suggests. It's a universal graphics that can kind of apply to many different uses. In fact, I've created mobile games where I used URP as well. But you'll notice that these materials and these assets, they're showing up like this. So what we have to do is we have to convert these assets to our URP. And so some of these with SimT come with this extract me package, which is just really convenient. I love that they do this. So now all I gotta do is import these new URP files, and let's look at, and you can see now they're not, well, that's just the model. Let's look at the prefabs are like this though. You can see it shows up here, it doesn't show up here, but I'll show you how to change that here. So we did that for this one. Let's go ahead and do that for the Apocalypse. A lot of times what this really does is it changes some of the, having this extra feature changes some of the materials. Kind of like the shaders is a big part. You know, like your, let's say you have a zombie, you know, how well does the blood show up on the zombie's legs or whatnot. And you'll see some of them don't have that, and that's fine. We'll be able to do it a different way here in a second. So if it doesn't have it, I just kind of move along. And where were we? Yeah, I think we just did more. Let's try again just in case. There's the other one. And last one. Alright, so now, since we finished that, we're going to go up to Edit, Render Pipeline, and we're going to go down to URP here, and we're going to upgrade the project materials to this pipeline. So all those ones that didn't have the nice extractor, now we went ahead and took care of those. So now if we look at these prefabs, still, you'll see it shows up here. And now it's showing down here. These particular ones, I'm not sure why they didn't show up. But what I like to do at this point, see some of these characters, is I would normally do a re-import all. That unfortunately takes a really long time with all of the assets that we went ahead and downloaded. So I'm going to avoid doing that for now, because then I would just have to talk and keep you guys preoccupied and bore the hell out of you guys, and I don't want to do that for now. So we're good to go at this point. I mean, you can see our sample scene here. If we wanted to go ahead and go in here, go to our prefabs, go to our characters, we can go ahead and just drag these guys right onto there. And what's really cool about Unity is it senses that there's a platform here, and it goes ahead and puts the character onto that platform. If I drag the mouse over here, he kind of follows that, but he kind of clips up on top of there. So that's pretty cool. So I don't have to usually, fine-tune his position up or down when Unity just kind of auto-detected it. So that's always nice. You can see now that I dragged him in, it shows up in the hierarchy. These are the ones right here. But I'm going to go ahead and delete those guys. Now, we do have a scenes folder, and our first initial scene, at least for now, is probably, I'd like to get into maybe I forgot about that. Since we dragged all our folders into the asset store folder first before we extracted those URP, that created some extra folders, so I'll have to do some cleanup of those later on. But for now, if we look back at the Dream Machine website, we're going to probably start with the bunker first. I think that would be the most fun. Sometimes I do like to work linearly, usually. So I will create kind of a splash screen, an intro, kind of showing off IBG, then I'll have a menu system, and I'll go through the settings, and I'll create all of that stuff before I even get to level 1 or level 0, or whatever you want to call it. And the reason for that is just so I can start having something to look at. I can start having a project to be proud of. If somebody were to come over and take a look at what I've been working on, I have something to show them. Or a lot of times if you just jump into level 0 and you're like, hey, I want to create the level 0 or level 1, and I want to create this bunker. Now when you show off this game to people, you're just going to show them a bunker. They don't really know too much about the game, and they're like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And you could spend a lot of time on these individual levels. So a lot of times I'll start off with the splash screens and the intros and whatnot. I think though, just this one particular time, and maybe I'll change my mind as we progress, but I think for now, let's just go ahead and start creating some of these scenes and get them kind of laid out the way that I think that they're gonna happen. So I'm gonna go into the asset store. I'm gonna go into the Apocalypse. The Apocalypse has a couple scenes already that you download. I want to say, let's look at this demo city universal render pipeline. I want to say this particular scene is pretty cool. You can see I'm kind of navigating through this scene, almost like I'm playing a video game itself. I use the WASD keys, and I right-click on the mouse to kind of scroll around and look around, and I just walk through almost like I'm playing a video game. And you can see how in-depth this scene is, and so this is kind of what the player is going to see when he first comes out of the bunker. It's kind of, maybe not this exact scene, because we're going to want to create something from scratch, but we might use this, at least temporarily, to get things going. But there's also this bunker demo here. So let's take a look at that. Now, we can't see anything right now. This is just the kind of like the standard Unity, and this is like a sky and whatnot. But if we go into the building here, and we're going to double click on that, now we're going to pull us in. It shows us this pre-made bunker that they created, and it's pretty cool. But it's kind of like a side-scrolling version. It does have some depth, but this isn't really what we want. If we take a look back at our support file, we look at our concept art, and let's say I'm going to pull up this one. This one was all 4 ideas from Midjourney. if we want to create a bunker like this and have our character being able to walk around and interact with some of these things, then this side view is not going to work. At least I don't think so. I wouldn't necessarily enjoy that. And at the same time, climbing up these ladders constantly, going up and down levels, I think it's just going to be too much. So what I'm going to do is, at least just for reference, I'm going to copy this scene, this demo bunker scene. You could do it just doing Control-C, and I'll go back over to my scenes file, and I'm gonna paste it in there, Control-V. And it doesn't want to do that. Let's try it. My computer does not like me today. Or let's try it even a different way. Let's we could do Control D, which creates a duplicate. And so you can see this one here, demo bunker 1 is the duplicate. And then I can just drag this into my root folder. So here it is now. Drag that over into the scenes. And so now we have this demo bunker 1. I'm going to rename this for now, and I'm going to just call it, we may just call it level 0 for now. And I might just do it more like this, level 0. There's different naming conventions that everybody does. In general, I like the level 0 to represent, man, how do I explain this? If you go into build settings, you can see the scenes in the build, and right now our sample scene was automatically put in here, so I'm going to remove that. But I can add the scene that's open, and its index is now 0. So I'm going to reference that sometimes through script, so that's why it's level 0. Sometimes this gets reserved for your menu, and that's probably what we're going to do. But for now, I'll just leave it like that, and we can rename things later. You can also see through these build settings that we're set up currently for PC. That's something I didn't. It kind of comes standard. These are some of the other options we could have done, but I'm going to leave these settings alone for now. So now we have our level 0 scene. I'm going to go ahead and open that one, and you'll notice the name up here changed. And now we can literally start building. So this is where the fun comes. If we go to our apocalyptic scene and we go to prefabs, we can do these buildings. You'll see these like tiles or flooring, and so we're going to want to use a lot of this. And if we pull up our reference picture again, you can see if you look at just the flooring itself, you can see that it's fairly just concrete, but it's a little bit it's kind of full of debris, or it might be dirty or old. For now, we can just look through here. I don't want to spend too much time kind of nitpicking these floors. You could spend a lot of time. I mean, we imported 53,000 files, so to go through every single one of these floors, it could take a long time. And I've done that before. Sometimes I'm like, man, I really need this particular door or chair, and I'll look through a lot of these files, and I'll look up chair. There's a nice easy way to search for it. I mean, we can type in chair up here, and then I can do T:prefab, so that isolates it to just prefabs. But you can see now we have quite a few different types of chairs. But sometimes the asset itself, these are ones that are called chair. So you can see this is a small prop rocking chair version 1. But sometimes you're thinking it's called a chair, and they named it sofa, or they named it, I don't know, something ridiculous, so it doesn't show up in these searches. And if I know it exists, but I can't find it doing a search, then I have to manually go through all of these assets and try to find it. it can get to be a pain sometimes. So if we go back to the apocalypse and we go back to buildings, I want to say we have that's the ceiling. Let's see, we have floor. There we go. Here's bunker floor, stone. Let's go with that for now. So I'm gonna just drag that off into the scene here, and then I'm gonna reset its values. So that's at 0, 0, 0. Now you can see it's right here, it's highlighted in orange, but there's already stuff here, and that's the stuff that came predefined. So I'm gonna just grab all their stuff. And you can just click on everything, hold shift, and then click the very last one. Kind of helps. And I'm just gonna move. Yep, I'm just gonna move that out of the way. Let's maybe move it all over here. Like I said, we're just gonna use this as reference. Something we can go and say, hey, how did they do the walls here? I mean, these are pretty cool looking walls. So I might come in there, kind of give me some ideas, kind of help me with the creative side of the house. But we do have our first floor of our bunker here. And let's see, I'm gonna move these windows over. These were on my other screen, but I don't need them over there right now. And I definitely don't need that tab. Alright. So here we have our first bunker floor. We're making progress here. Now, we can go ahead and just do Control D and duplicate it, and we can hold it's Control. We can hold Control, and if you notice my transform up here, my position, it's going to move in increments, which is really nice. If you don't hold Control now, if you move it, notice how the numbers start getting a little crazy. Well, when you create these floorings, you don't want them that often. You don't want them like on top of each other. It creates like these clipping issues. So you can kind of see. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but sometimes when you're moving around, especially as a player, you'll see like each graphic is trying to fight the other graphic to who's on top. And I've seen this in some even AAA games before. And that's essentially what it is you have two different graphics right on top of each other, and they're just fighting. So I try to avoid that as much as possible. But you also don't want to have a gap either, which happens too in games all the time. In fact, a lot of generated levels, this happens. I think 7 Days to Die, for example, Green Hell, I've seen it in Green Hell, where you're walking around looking at the cave, and then all of a sudden you just see this gap. And it's hard. It's really hard when you're creating those really intricate levels. It's really hard to fix all of that, see all of it everywhere. But in general, so if we look back, I mean, this looks fairly close, and we're looking at about 2.5. So then I would hold that control again. Actually, let's just put it right at 2.5. If we were to duplicate this one again and just control it over, you'll notice that it stops at 2.5. So its increment when we hold control is perfect. So I don't think we have any overlapping textures, and I don't think we have any gaps. Looks pretty good to me. Now I don't know how big we're gonna want this. We're gonna play around with it, and I'm gonna go ahead and just let's do. We're just gonna highlight all three of these and shift and duplicate them again. Hold control, move that over. We're creating like a grid almost. And if we want to start similarly to this concept art, I know I don't really like these ones because it's all just wide open. I do like the rooms, but I'm thinking almost every room is probably, it might be kind of a 6x6 square. So that's kind of where I'm starting. We'll adjust it as we go. So now we can select all of them, duplicate that, hold Control, move it over. We can just keep it here and do that again. So now we have 6x6 square. So that could be potentially one room. Now you'll notice over in our hierarchy it's getting a little flooded. We have all these assets. So what I like to do is just create what's called an empty game object. And we can, for now, we can just call it bunker. And I'm gonna drag this up because I think it might have became a child of this. You almost think of these as like folders. So this is kind of the root folder, and then these are all things inside that folder. Although this is called a parent, and these are called children. So we have this new empty game object. You can see it kind of exists in the scene, but there's just nothing into it. So it's kind of like an empty folder. But we don't need this to have any positioning. So you can either zero this out like that, or you can actually just click up here and click reset, and it'll put it at 0, 0. So now if we scroll back out, you can see 0, 0 is right there. That's where we put our first base. Another thing too, you can see these are their folders, and since this is unlocked, anytime you click on something in the scene, like I click on this barrel, it's going to show me in the hierarchy. And I don't like doing it that way most of the time. So what I do is I lock that. And so now if I click on this, or the toilet, the bed, nothing changes over here, which is the way I prefer it. So we have, if we double click on this, we have our basis here for our first room. I'm going to go ahead and drag that into the bunker here, folder, or parent. And let's create another one, and we'll call that, we can just call it room 1 for now. And we're going to put all of that into room 1. Just get a little bit organized. The namings, I mean, they change all the time. And there's strategies behind naming. I've seen some pretty crazy stuff in my day, but for now I'm not too worried about it. I'll show you, eventually I'll show you how I do it. But for now, just to speed things up a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and do this. So now we have our room 1, and now it's really easy. We can just duplicate that, and now we have room 2 ready to go. I want to say there's still a gap there, so I'm going to go over. There's room 2. And did you notice how in the hierarchy, if you duplicate things, it does this auto naming? So I'm going to go ahead and just establish that as my naming system for now. So now when we duplicate room 2, it's just going to automatically duplicate to room 3. And that helps us just do things quicker, so I don't have to sit here and rename every single one. Alright, so room 3 is done. Now let's do room 4. There we go. So now we got all the rooms. I mean, we can do more rooms. We may actually do more rooms. I don't necessarily want this to be a perfect square like the diagram or the concept art shows. But if I think about what a bunker would look like, I don't know how much they would really get away from the square concept. I've seen a lot of rectangular bunkers in real life or in real videos, so I'm kind of thinking that might be, you know, what we go with. Also down here on this one, it looks like that could continue, and that could be maybe the way out of the bunker. I don't know. Similar to like other video games where you just kind of zone out, or you know, new scene, we may just do it like that, where as long as the player walks over that general area, he's now going to just magically get teleported to above ground. But we'll see how we go. So now that we've done that, let's start doing some walls. We got our floor, let's get some walls going. So here we do have walls already selected here. We have these wall slabs. Some of these are different sizing, which gets to be kind of interesting. But we also have some variety here too. You can see version 2, version 3, version 1s. So that's pretty cool. So for now, let's go with just the version 1. So I'm gonna start with room 1 here, and actually let's organize even better here. So now in room 1, we should have done this right off the bat, but I'm just gonna say floor for floor, and let's move all of that into here, because we're now also going to want walls, and we're going to want stuff that the player can interact with, and we're going to want lighting, and we're going to want beds, and all this crazy stuff. So the better we're organized, just the easier things are going to get in the long run. So let's do another one, floor. Like I said, we should have done this just right off the bat, so that way when we duplicated it, this would have already been done. And I could just literally delete these and reduplicate it, but then I'll just have to move them over again into their position. So for now, I'm just going to do it this way. Like I said, there's a million ways to do everything. The goal is always just to try to find the quickest one. So we have our rooms, they all have flooring now, so now we're going to go ahead and add our walls. We're going to start with room 1 here, and we're going to start with this wall slab version 1. Now if we just go ahead and drag this out here, we can kind of see what that entails. Now you can see it did get some weird numbering here. So I kind of want to see what that looks like at 0, so. For those that don't know, this is Unity uses like this grid system. So you can kind of see up here you have your Y, which is green. So that's moving up and down, just very similar to like what you learned in school. Your X is actually the red here, so that's your left and right. And then your Z here is kind of like your depth. Very similar to school if any of you guys took math classes that I had to do. So what we're going to want is very similar to the floor. We're going to want these kind of on a grid. So you can see here, I just kind of rough estimated where it should be. And I can see this is probably going to need to be 10, and this is going to be 0. So you can see it kind of just fits perfectly. Like they designed the Cinti Studio. See how they designed the lip to fit just perfectly over this flooring. I mean, that's how nice working with Cinti is. Like not every company does that kind of stuff. So when we duplicate this and we move it over, everything's real nice with the numbers, and everything's really nicely positioned, and there's no gaps and no clipping. So yeah, this is pretty good. We're going to go ahead and create an empty for the walls. And I'm going to go ahead and throw those in there. So now whenever you duplicate these walls, it just automatically gets put in that folder instead of showing up in your root directory. So for now, let's probably just create maybe the ring all the way around. Now I know that doesn't all go into room 1, so we may have to figure out what goes into room 2 and so on and so forth. it probably really doesn't matter. I mean, we could probably put, yeah, in fact, we could probably do that. We could take walls and just put it in this, since it's not really room dependent. We can just have it here on the outside, and that'll keep us from having to move it anywhere. Excuse me. So now let's just go ahead and keep doing this. You can see they're lining up perfectly with that. We only need 5 more. So I can literally just select the last 5, duplicate that, move that over to save time. So now we have that one wall. This isn't tall enough. If we wanted to use a reference, which is, like I said, is always good to have. Let's just grab a random character. Maybe this could be our father here. Alright, we're going to put him there. So this, the wall, I mean, if he's 6 foot, the wall could be, what, 9 feet, 10 feet. So maybe that could potentially be the height that we're looking for. It didn't look like it originally, but it's actually not too bad. So now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this again, and what we're going to do is we're just going to drag it all the way over to this other side. And let's see. And of course we have to now rotate this. So I'm going to select this rotation button up here, and I'm going to hold Control again, because you'll notice it nicely rotated everything 180 degrees. At it, it looks pretty lined up to me. We wanted to move this one just kind of temporarily and then Alt Z it. Let's see, it looks pretty good. And actually, this looks like a pretty ginormous bunker. Maybe even doing 6 by 6 rooms was a little much. You know, when we compare it to the actual guy. But for now, I mean, maybe the father was a scientist, you know, engineer. I mean, maybe he had some good money and was able to purchase a pretty nice bunker. Alright, so I'm gonna just Control Z until I have this highlighted again. It's kind of nice that Unity lets you Control Z to actually what you have selected. I really like that feature, and I'm gonna duplicate that again. And we're gonna rotate it again. You can see it doesn't quite do the rotation that we want. It's rotating on a pivot. You can see the difference. Let's select pivot here. Now if we do Control, see how they all rotate individually? That wasn't too much of an issue for these, but now rotating it this way, we want to click center over here. We want to rotate from the center. Go 90 degrees that way. Hold Control again and move this into position. A little too far. And let's see. See how we got that gap? That's what we got right here. Now, one thing, we're not centered on our Z. We're not centered, but see how we have all these kind of weird numbers. So I bet it's 1 point. Let's see. 1.5? Let's see. Select all these walls here. I think it's jumping. Yeah, it's jumping. That's a pain sometimes. So we could just go in here and reset these. That was 2.5. or I could literally just delete all these. That'll be quicker. And then just reduplicate them. Drag them over. See how easy it is to, you know, try to do this really fast and then you're not lined up properly, or you're, yeah, look at that. Let's see. Oh yeah, now I see what the issue is. Not sure this is too much of a big deal, but you'll notice right here, see how there's just this little tiny bit of an overlap. So we would want that to be, yeah, right around 0. And that's 2.5. 5. Let's go ahead and 2.5 increments. Just looks weird. We lined it up. Let's see, how does that look over on the side? Yeah. I think we're good. That was probably more difficult than it needed to be. I'm going to control click all of these so I can highlight them all. And then I'm going to duplicate that and move them over here. I'm going to rotate them again. Move it back over. Alright. Here's a lighting toggle. Maybe it might be easier to see if I toggle that off. Just kind of see what it looks like. I'm not sure. But I think, you know, we're going to be kind of dark and gloomy at some point, so I usually just leave this like this. Now, another thing, we created the floors, we created the walls. It's definitely pretty boring looking at, or as we speak. You know, everything's exactly the same. You know, you're really going to want to create some differences here, and that's why I wanted to keep this up and running. You know, we may want to have each room kind of have its own little theme, so to speak, in which we haven't even laid out like what we're going to put in each room. Where's the bedroom? Where's the entrance? For now, you know, we can say, you know, I talked about where we zone out. We can have that be here for now. All of this is subject to change. But let's say, you know, once the player goes over here, he's going to leave. We could even put, you know, some kind of bunker door here. Let's take a look. So we do have a couple options. I'm not too picky. Maybe we use something like this one. Let's rotate it. Notice now how we do have some clipping. So we're going to need to have some kind of, you know, like frame. Notice, see these things? We may need something like that to kind of help get rid of that. I thought, yep, I want to say these are them. drag these in here. Let's rotate them. See how that looks. It's decent for now. So I'll go ahead and move this one over there. That'll work for now. We'll fine tune it as we go. I think we need to work on some of these rooms now. We're definitely going to want some type of kitchen, some type of living room, some type of bedroom, and then a work room, workshop room where the dream machine is. So if we count that out, we got the kitchen, living room, bedroom, workshop. You know, that is a perfect four squares, kind of like what we're creating right now. We could have some kind of blend. You know, maybe the bedroom doesn't need to be as big as the workroom, or however we want to do it. I don't want to focus on getting too much of this looking just amazing right off the bat. So for now, let's take a look at what we got over here. So we do got some pretty cool stuff. Yeah, maybe a bathroom might be something we need to have in there. You can see here's kind of the workbench, and they even kind of already put tools in there. So what we could do, grab. I don't think this is a prefab. Let's check. No, just the workbench itself. You can see none of the tools on there are a prefab of that item. So I'm gonna grab. Select this back up again. I'm gonna grab everything you see here. So now when I move it. Let's grab this propane. Nothing like a bunker that's filled with gas canisters and propane canisters. And let's just say, man, this is just a massive bunker. Let's say, I don't know, whatever's clever. We'd say this bottom right hand corner is going to be kind of where the workshop's at. So we're going to have that down there. Select some of these cool boxes and whatnot. And I'm gonna want to move these too, because right now they're referenced, or they're in the they're not in our new structure that we built here in the hierarchy. They're in the old one. So at some point I'm going to want to rebuild these. And of course we want to do inner walls too, so I'll get to that. I just wanted to have kind of some kind of reference. This stuff is pretty cool. You can see, we want like a junction, a nice little junction box, or whatever these things are called. I am definitely not an electrician. We're going to want some stuff like this here. The placement on these doesn't have to be as fine-tuned as we did with the walls and the floors and whatnot. I do like this lighting concept that they have, but because we're not going to have a roof, at least. Yeah, I mean, if we did the top down, a complete top down, we wouldn't have a roof. If we did a third person with a little more zoomed in, we would definitely want a roof. So I don't know. That's something I'll have to consider. But having the lighting come from the ceiling is always better to me. I really like this stuff here. This looks like almost like where they get their water from. And I didn't really mention, what this game is going to be doing at heart. Once you get to the spider apocalypse part. But the big part of the game, this is a ultimate survival RPG. So the father, is weak and can't leave the bunker. He's getting old, and so you just went through all this training in the dream machine, and now you're leaving the bunker to bring back supplies for the father. So we're gonna want some type of supply room where it stores food, water, ammunition, of sorts, as well. And I want to make it where if you don't make it back that often, that your father can actually die. So he's dependent 100% on you to bring supplies back and forth. I also kind of like these concepts too, or maybe there's doors inside the bunker itself, kind of eliminating the rooms. Now that I think about it too, we may want to incorporate some of these curved walls and some of these straight walls. I kind of want to see what we have available. Where I don't know if we can do is there a way to put a door like on this side of the wall? I don't think they have that asset, if I remember correctly, and that could be a pretty big issue, because I wouldn't want this just to be a linear long tube of a bunker. We could just maybe leave a gap like this. Let's say hypothetically, let's see what this looks like here. So let's say we had this here to 0. Now what if we had this circular that, but we didn't have the door down far enough. But what if we had, what does that look like on the other side? We would just put walls on the inside too. But I'm thinking, what if we had kind of like this tube going down the center, and then the rooms would go off of this tool, so we kind of have like this hallway. I think that could look good, potentially. So let's say, this is all just hypothetical at this point, but let's see what this looks like. You can really have fun with this kind of stuff. There's some people that all I do is just the level design, and they make some pretty good stuff. I wouldn't say I'm the best at, or even that great at level design. Like I said, I like to use references. I like to get my ideas from maybe a bunch of different places. But as far as kind of coming up with the level from scratch, it can be pretty difficult for me. But that's part of doing this is learning where you're good at, what you're good at, what you're not good at, outsourcing or figuring out how to get past what you're not good at. I'm not good at dialogue, but I'll teach you guys at some point what we can do instead of trying to create our own dialogue. Alright, so you can see kind of have the makings of this tube. I think we're gonna need some of these right here, where the potential room could be. We're gonna need something for the centerpiece. If I go back over and look at this reference, I think they just have a normal ceiling. So it looks like we're going to go with the roof, which is fine. We'll do more zoomed in kind of third person view here. And we'll have to limit, how far they can zoom out the camera and whatnot. Because we don't want the camera to come all the way outside of these walls. But we'll get into that. And also, just maybe we should reference this too. If we look at our kids and characters, so this maybe is the father for now, and you can see there's all these really cool kid ideas. I'm not sure. Let's see if we have look at this little elf warrior. Let's see if there's a kind of an apocalyptic, dirty looking one. I don't want to spend too much time because we're obviously going to do that one. We're gonna fine tune this one or these characters as we progress. Wow, they even have the skeleton kids. Survivor. Hey, looks pretty cool, huh? They look just like each other. But yeah, so your camera's gonna be almost like this, over the shoulder of your kid walking around. So the roof doesn't seem too bad when you're in the kid's perspective. So we'll leave it there. There for that. And we're gonna go ahead and grab these arches. These spots here. Alright, let's double check that. Looks good. So I'm thinking, I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking with these arches here, we could create kind of like a doorway, kind of cheat the system since we don't have a nice asset from Cinti that already includes like an archway with these, or a doorway with these tubes here. Sure, I think we may have to put that in a little bit like that. No, maybe not. These aren't perfectly aligned quite yet. If we use that as like the reference Although this one does kind of click out a little bit. So, I should have fixed these positions more before I duplicated them. But I think that's the way we're going to want these. Lining up the way we want it. It's probably not going to be a nice. Well, that's not so bad. Sometimes this can be a little painful, just figuring out exactly the way we want it. And I don't even know if we're going to keep these or not, but what I don't want to do is just throw them up fast, decide I want to keep it, and then we'll have to come back and fix every single one of these. Could get pretty tedious. I'm gonna go ahead and delete these other ones because we changed these positions. I'm just gonna duplicate them so that way we're exactly the same. Throughout all these arches. Whatever these things are called. Alright. I think we're getting decent here, but now we can go back into that apocalyptic bunker stuff when we get back to like the walls. We do have some other wall options. I don't know if we need like the really nice concrete walls for the rooms. You know, the rooms probably, they don't necessarily have to be as solidified. I don't know, let's take a look at a reference image. You know, these walls on the outside of the bunker would be pretty thick. You know, they'd be hard to get through. These walls, I mean, they could in real life they could just be 2x4s of sheetrock. I don't know. What do you guys think? Maybe this thinner concrete wall could work for now. That could be potentially our door too. Let's take a look. If I whisper, it's usually because I'm just thinking to myself. I do that without even noticing. I apologize. Yeah, so that could be the door here. Let's put one there. Let's put these there. So now, oh wow. can see our sizing's already getting a little messed up here. Notice how there's an overlap there and there's no overlap there. That's the kind of stuff that I try to avoid when I can. Could just be this. Now you can see why even the AAA games have problems with this stuff sometimes. Just go ahead and Control Z that for now. We'll fine tune it. We'll get there. You gotta bear with me. Alright, so we got all these bunker beams. I'm gonna go ahead and add these to the wall concept. Hierarchy was getting a little crazy. Alright, so now we do need some ceilings. Now, I'll put the ceilings now, but we're going to turn them off because obviously when we're designing this, we don't want to get distracted by the ceiling all the time. So let's see, what's the ceiling? That looks fine with me. Let's choose. Oh, that's cool, there's these lighting ones. I think for now we'll just stick with this. I drag this onto the scene. Let's go ahead and do it like we did earlier and reset the transform. And then let's move it up. So you can see once again it kind of seats perfectly in with that wall there. And just like with the flooring, we're gonna move this around. I'll go ahead and create another empty, call it ceiling. I think that's how you spell it. And drag that in there. And for now, we're going to want this ceiling to take over the entire bunker. At least with this, we don't have to do any rotating. It's a little easier. Now we can just actually we'll go to the app view. So people change the perspectives, so you can have just a complete top-down or complete side view perspective. I tend to just not need that. I usually just use the WASD keys. You can also use, what is it? Did they move it? Yeah, Q and E also goes down and up. So WASD and then Q and E. Makes it pretty easy to kind of move around everywhere. So I'll just find the exact angle that I need and go there and verify if there's any clipping or anything missing, or if there's a gap. I think we have one. Too many blocks, but I think we have to. Oh. Oh, you know what? I think we messed up our flooring. Yeah, look at that. that's what's causing all this stuff to mess up the flooring a couple times. You're moving too fast, guys. See? That's how easy it is. And man, it's going to take a little bit to fix all these. But that's part of doing this. I'm going to go ahead and toggle that ceiling off so you can see. I don't know how I didn't catch that before. Let's think, what's the easiest way? I'll probably do all of these, move them over to the right. Is that my 0, 0 though? Yeah, my 0, 0 is actually correct. Man. So it's everything. It's everything to the right of these two squares as our issues. So we have to move everything. And now I kind of wish we just had one massive floor. Here, this is what we're going to do. Floor is also going to be... You guys should have said something earlier. I'm gonna have floor be part of just the bunker itself. We're gonna take all of these original tiles that are in the right spot. And we're going to move them into here. We're now going to delete everything else. Nope, not that one though. Hopefully that makes sense. So now we know this flooring is good, and we're just going to kind of, instead of having to move them all, we're just going to delete them and redo it. So let's zoom in and pay a little bit more attention this time. Yep, I think that's good. That's good. That's good. That looks a lot better, flooring wise. Now we just gotta fix the walls. So you know what I'll probably do is I'll probably get off here for a little bit and grab some lunch. I didn't realize the time already, but grab some lunch. I might just fix the walls while I'm off camera, off stream, just to speed things up a little bit. Unless you guys really want to painfully watch me fix all these. You know, we essentially want them to line up perfectly how they are right here. We also want them to line up perfectly down here, so you can see we got some clip in here. Probably won't be too much of a fix, but maybe like 5 minutes or so. But we want everything to line up nice and perfect. I'm also going to go ahead and save the project, or save the scene. We haven't actually pushed play and gone into the editor yet, so that was actually our first time doing it. And that'll also get our GitHub up and running. Alright guys, I will take a break. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you shortly.